So the Rabbi said, this Rabbi said, see, I don't know. Maybe, maybe. How much money you want to donate? What are the other numbers? You can fix it. Welcome back, everyone. Yes, bring it over. Summer. Never get this because this is a place according to my thing.
We're ready. We're ready. It's 10 o'clock. Okay.
My name says Saturday, 8:07.
Okay, we'll start. We're the books are here.
Yeah, very much. What are you doing Sunday? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, hello everyone. This week's Parsha of Emor has two main subjects to it. The first one deals with the status of the Kohanim. And the second one deals with the holidays of the Jewish calendar. I want to speak to you about the first subject, about the status of the Kohanim amongst Klal Yisrael. Now, we all know, or should know by now, that the Torah is a Torah of balance. That the Torah dislikes extremes. And the Torah insists that we treat them as elite. The Torah says, "V'kidashtem osam." You shall sanctify them. You have to treat them as special people. So we know that we have many rules that apply to Kohanim. And we know that Kohanim are entitled to many special honors. The first Aliyah, the right to Birchat Hamazon with the Zimun. And the Kohen was entitled to a portion of many of the sacrifices that were brought in the temple. And the Kohanim, so to speak, worked what we used to call bankers' hours. The Kohanim, they worked 4 weeks a year, maybe 6 weeks, with the Yom Tovim. The Kohanim were an elite group of people. And the Navi reinforces that idea to us. Kisif say, Chorein yishmeru das, v'torah yavakshu mipiyu. From the lips of the Kohen will the Jewish people attempt to obtain wisdom and knowledge because he's a malach. He's angelic. He has a super status. So that's one idea about a Kohen. And we find that in this week's Parsha. Moshe says, Emor la Kohanim, speak to the Kohanim, v'amarta lahem, and say to them. So the Rashi, all the Meforshim, the Talmud forward ask, why the double language? Emor lahem, speak to them, v'amarta lahem, and you shall say to them. So Rashi here quotes the famous accepted pshat, Lahazir Gedolim Alaktanim. Emor lahem is to tell the Kohanim. V'amarta, you shall tell them it's not enough that they should observe or that they should study, but it's their obligation to do so for their children as well. This raises many questions. Everybody's supposed to do something for their children. The primary mitzvah of the Torah, so to speak, is chinuch habonim v'abonos, to educate the next generation. Judaism always is living in the next generation. Now that requires that the parents, grandparents, the elders put a great deal of effort into the education of the young. So that's not a rule by Kohanim alone. It's not special to the Kohen that the Kohen's child should be knowledgeable in Torah, should be observant of mitzvot, should be a positive person. That's for everybody. So what does it mean, Lahazir Gedolim Alaktanim? So most Meforshim say that since the next discussion in the Torah is regarding the laws of truma, that's an unseen force that exists in the Jewish spiritual world. methods in order to remove this defilement. So you have to teach that to the young Kohen, even though the young Kohen is not yet subject to the rules of defilement, but he has to be aware that when we're talking about a Kohen, truma is completely unacceptable. There are only 7 instances when it's allowed in the Torah. The Kohen doesn't go to funerals. The Kohen doesn't go on the cemetery. That's not his role in life. So therefore, you have to teach the young that they're special, that they're a Kohen, that a Kohen doesn't go. However, there are many questions on this as well. So I want to share with you an overarching idea regarding Kohanim that may sound somewhat radical, but if you hopefully think about it, you'll see it goes back to the original point that I was making, that we live in the middle, that the Kohen is a balanced. So when you make a certain group of people or an individual person elite, special, when you say to that person, the ordinary rules that apply to everybody else do not apply to you. You have a unique characteristic, and that you're entitled to honor from people, public honor. So that creates within the Kohen, within the person that you're giving this honor to, a feeling of this elitism. I am better than you. I'm a Kohen. And you are not. And therefore you are subservient to me. You are less of a person. I'm the special person. Chazal were well aware of this trap of creating an elite class amongst Klal Yisrael. A class so elite that it would have detrimental effects upon others. It would diminish others. And in so doing, therefore, it would impair the unity of the Jewish people. So therefore, we find, for instance, the Talmud teaches us a startling statement. Mamzer Talmud Chacham, Kodem L'Kohen Gadol Amoritz. You'll have a Kohen Gadol. Yeah, I'm sorry. You'll have a Talmud Chacham, which means a Torah scholar, but he is of imperfect legitimacy. He has no pedigree. But because of his Torah knowledge, because of his skills in learning, he has precedence over the high priest of Israel, who is an Amoritz, who is not a scholar. So in that statement, Chazal attempted to balance the issue. And they did so with the posuk that I mentioned before. Yisif say choin yishmuru da'as, v'torah yavakshu mipiyu, ki malach Hashem tzorkosu. That the lips of the Kohen guard wisdom, I have to apologize for the Zoom. The Wi-Fi here is weak. You can get it on Torah anytime. So we see that the rabbis themselves tempered the elitism of the Kohanim. They made it conditional. It's not automatic. So that, so to speak, to be a Kohen, you have to earn the right to be called the Kohen. And how do you earn that right? The same way that any Jew earns the right to be respected, or to be honored, or to be held in esteem by how you behave, by your knowledge, by your loyalty to Torah. That's the measuring rod. So that is an understanding of what it means that you will warn the Kohanim, the Gedolim Alaktanim, the great ones, about the young ones, that the great ones should emphasize the older generation, should emphasize that the rights of the Kohen are not automatic. That's what you have to tell the Ktanim. You have to tell them you have to earn it. It's very comforting to have a great pedigree. And in many respects, it certainly has an effect upon us. It gives us nobility. It gives us an image of what we're supposed to be, but it doesn't guarantee anything. It does not in any way assure one's place in society or in spiritual society, certainly. So therefore, them some that they should tell their children, listen, it's great to be a Kohen, and it's wonderful that you have this pedigree, and we can trace our family all the way back to Aaron, a Kohen, to Moshe's brother, but you have to earn it. You have to earn it yourself. And without earning it, then, so to speak, the pedigree becomes worthless. It doesn't give you any status of elitism or being better or being higher or nobler. Now, over the history of the Jewish people, we have a great deal of halachic literature, discussions amongst the rabbis about Kohanim. For instance, they're in the wild west of the United States at the turn of the 20th century, when millions of Eastern European Jews flooded America. So there were charlatans who came and said that they were a Kohen. Why would they say they were a Kohen? Because they could get $5 for a pidyon aben. Now, to us, that sounds ludicrous. But under the circumstances of the time, when you don't have a job, you don't have food on the table, and you can get $5. So there were many fake Kohanim. I remember in Chicago an incident with a fake Kohen. So then the question was the pidyon aben effective? There's a famous piece in the Minchas Chinuch that he says that a pidyon aben can be effective even if the person is Yisrael. Not everyone agrees with him. And certainly not everyone would agree that we would say it's effective if the person who claims to be a Kohen is a charlatan. But such a thing existed. I remember a number of cases that I had as a rabbi where this idea that there were fake Kohanim was turned into a positive thing. A man is married to a woman. They're not observant. They had a Jewish wedding. 10 years into marriage, they both become observant. They're Bali Tshuva. When they do that, they start to look back in their family, and they see that she comes from a family of converts, and he comes from a family of Kohanim. A Kohen can't marry a convert. They're in love with each other. They have a perfect family. They're wonderful people. What are you going to tell them to do? So here the idea of fake Kohanim came to their rescue. Rabbi Feinstein has a famous decision on this matter. He says, who says he's a Kohen? Can't prove he's a Kohen. And since there were so many instances of fake Kohanim, so that's a doubt. So he said, if someone wants to assume that he is a Kohen and observe all of the rigorous commandments that apply to Kohanim, he certainly can do so. But that doesn't make him 100% the Kohen. And in our time, for instance, therefore, no truma is given to any Kohen. The truma is separated from the crop, and it is allowed to go to waste. Same thing with the Meiser, because we don't have any Kohen that can prove he's a Kohen. We don't have any Levi that can prove he's a Levi. So every year, Carmel Wine deposits 5,000 or 50,000 gallons of wine into the Mediterranean, which make the fish happy. But we're not giving it to the Kohanim, because who's a Kohen? Who says he's a Kohen? And that question is raised over and over again. It's raised about people that stand up to duchen, to bless the people. How do you know they're Kohanim? So there we say, a blessing is a blessing. And therefore, anybody that says that he wants to bless, he can bless. But when it comes to obtaining something of monetary value, like truma, who says he's a Kohen? And therefore, we have the same thing with the Pidyon Haben. And that's why people search to get the most, what word should I use? The most legitimate Kohen that they can for a Pidyon Haben. So for instance, when Rav Kook lived in Yerushalayim, so he was almost every day for a Pidyon Haben. He told my father that he used the money that he got for the Pidyon Haben. That was his library, which the yeshiva owns. But people felt that, that Rav Kook was a legitimate Kohen. So this is a balance that exists. And as we've mentioned many times, everything in the Torah is a balance. So how we treat it has this idea of balance to it. On the other hand, Lahazik Doli Malaktanim is you have to tell the young you are a Kohen. You have to live up to the standards of a Kohen. You have to be Kisif say Kohen Yishmu Das V'Torah Yavakshu Mipiyu Ki Malach Hashem Tzvokosu. You have to be an angel. So it's the balance of those two things, which is any balance is not easy to maintain, and this one is no exception. On the one hand, you are, and on the one hand, maybe you aren't. And that's a great lesson. And that's a lesson that has to be taught from the elder generation to the younger generation. And it's a lesson that we don't want to have an elitist society. Therefore, at the time of the Second Temple, the rabbis were very critical of the Hasmoneans, who were Kohanim, because they usurped to become the kings of Judea. The kings, the monarchy belonged to the house of David, not to the Kohanim. And at the end, the Hasmoneans were destroyed because of it. That's the Ramban says that. How come there's nobody left from the Hasmoneans, the great men of Israel? Because they overreached. They made themselves more elite than they were entitled to. So that's an idea to remember in our personal lives and in the national life of the Jewish people. There are special people, and we have to treat them as special people. But there also is a balance. And that balance is what has maintained us throughout the ages until today. And that's part of the idea of Hizartim Gdolim Alaktanim, that one generation will instruct the younger generation as to its worth and its pedigree and its place in society. So have a Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you for coming. And, this Sunday night, there's a book launch that you're all invited to attend.
Three of us tomorrow.
There are of us tomorrow.
Okay, welcome back. I'm curious to find